behalf of Team MSU. Because it really is a team effort, and Scott and his leadership are just extraordinary. I think the energy in the room last night was wonderful, and we appreciate all the work that you all are doing. And it's hard to figure out where to stand since you are the most important folks, and those are the folks that, okay. So, you're just lucky. So, let me talk a bit about sort of where we think we are, and it really is up, a credit to you all. There's probably never been a time in the recent history where the energy, the buzz, if you want to use that term, around Michigan State has been as great. And that's a credit to really developing the kind of alumni network, donor network that you all are going to try to enhance and improve today. Because it really is critical to the success of the university. It's one thing to say that when we say to a prospective student or a faculty member, you're part of a dynamic, vibrant community who's worried about you when you're not knowing what you want to do, is preparing you for a career, and as Scott says, for life. It's another thing to make that happen and make it real. Make it real. And if you look at the branding issues, everything that's happened, one of the words that describes Michigan State is genuine. It comes through in all of our surveys. Whether you're a faculty member, a staff member, an alumni, a new student, the word is genuine. And there's probably no more important word for the 21st century in what's all around us than being genuine. And a place that is prepared to look at real-world problems, but not just look at problems, but to focus on real-world solutions. And to do that in a way, as you heard for those of you here last night, in a way that is, with our value, inclusive. So inclusive is a value not for simply demographic representation. That's extraordinarily important. This class is very diverse with 20% students of color in it. But at the same time, it is inclusive in the way we interact with one another, the way we hear, the way we process, the way in which we want to think about solutions. Because Spartans are high-impact people. Are high-impact people. Because you can have an education and not necessarily be a high-impact person. You can have a high impact in your job and not necessarily be a high-impact person in your community. Or you can think about issues and not necessarily be a high-impact person in your field. Or setting the foundation for the future. Those are Spartans. And what we've been able to do with your help and with Heather on branding and everybody sort of pulling together is make that message clearer. But it's not a contrived message, it's a genuine message. Which means that every day we just have to deliver on the promise of that message in ways that make us even more special. So the campaign theme of Empower Extraordinary is a way of trying to connect the resources that we need, not simply for us to be great, but to everybody around us to be great. And that's really critical because as you'll listen to everybody, we're coming into this campaign with not having the tools that others have to be successful. If this were an athletic issue, it would be easy to make the case because everybody looks at the next widget that athletics has, as if that will make them really successful and not the people. And what we're doing in the campaign, by focusing almost all of it on people, is doing that piece first. And in order to recruit and retain the best people, you just need endowed things. It's the reality. You can argue that it's not no good. You can argue that it puts us in a significantly difficult competitive position, which is true. So if you take out Michigan and Ohio, Michigan and Northwestern in the Big Ten, the median number of endowed positions is 300 and growing, and we have 100. In endowed scholarships, we're about at a $400 million deficit from that mean, and they're growing. So we got to close the gap. And why do we have to close the gap? Because it means that we have the opportunity for the most talented students across socioeconomic class to be able to be at Michigan State. Because they're going to be recruited elsewhere. Some are not, but some are going to be those individuals who, because they were at Michigan State, made an extraordinary difference. You have to have great people around students. You have to have those beacons. It's true on an athletic team, it's true academically. Those are the endowments. Because people will go and need those, not just for self-aggrandizement, but because the endowments give them risk capital that lets them explore a really weird idea. Because you can't get that risk capital through the grant process. You have to have it in a way that lets you set a student off on a trail or do other kinds of things, because great discoveries come from that risk capital. The real things that come that are the incremental, not just the incremental changes, but the really quantum changes, come often from that risk capital. Right now, if you're an NIH-funded researcher, the average age of an R01 recipient, their first time is 40 years old. 40 years old. Those are trends that we'd like to change through national policy, but we also have to compete within those rules. And we have to be really good within those rules, because Spartans deserve that. The students who come here deserve that. You deserve an institution that grows in stature, quality, and energy and position. You deserve that. So we have to do it together. We have to do it together. And use this campaign along with a process where we've been sort of squeezing the institution maybe a little bit harder than we needed to, in order to be at the end of this most difficult 10 years in our history of funding, to have some money available to accelerate. We have to expect people to be incrementally better. That's just life. That's just life. And some people will be that at a faster rate than others, but that's what great institutions do. But in order to do things